Yes, my friend, Mason Graham, 5th overall pick. A name you've heard, but maybe not enough. While all the buzz this offseason has been about quarterbacks, rookie sensations like Shedeur Sanders and even Dylan Gabriel, Graham, the Browns' first-round pick, has barely come up in the conversation. And maybe, just maybe, there's a reason for that. Or maybe we're just not paying enough attention. And here's the thing, they did it with the 5th overall pick. So what do they know that we don't? What if I told you the Browns might be trying to recreate a risky experiment that's already failed? What if the future of Cleveland's defensive identity hinges on a player who, by all traditional metrics, doesn't quite fit what this team claims to value? What if the first sign of trouble, or maybe the first sign of greatness, was a rookie throwing up in practice? Stay with me, because this isn't just about a player. This is about a vision, a gamble, and a decision that could define the Browns for years to come. But first, I want to ask you a question. How would you rate Kevin Stefanski? Do you think he's been doing a good job or has he been lacking? Comment below. And if you really want to see the Browns compete for a Super Bowl, enjoy it. Now let's analyze. After the trade back with the Jaguars, the Cleveland Browns selected Mason Graham, defensive tackle from Michigan, with the 5th overall pick in the draft. A decision that caused a stir among fans, not because of who he is, but because of what he isn't. Graham isn't flashy. He's not a sack machine. He's not the interior pass rush specialist many imagined in the modern NFL. But what about the Browns? They saw something else. Or maybe they saw something they wanted to mold. Defensive coordinator Jim Schwartz, in his own words, said, "It's been an adjustment for him. We're a penetrating team that makes a big emphasis on defensive linemen being able to make the plays." That's a key line, because Schwartz is not just acknowledging a learning curve, he's pointing to a philosophical difference in scheme and skill set. Mason Graham isn't, and never was, a penetrating defensive tackle. At Michigan, he made his living as a rugged run stuffer. Strong base, quick hands, power through the gap. He could hold his ground like a bulldozer and eat up double teams like it was lunch break. But get to the quarterback? Not so much. This brings up a familiar concern. Remember Siaki IKA? Schwartz once told IKA during the draft call, "You've been a dump truck, but you're going to be a Ferrari for us." That never worked out, because no matter how great the mechanics, you can't turn a bulldozer into a Ferrari. The IKA experiment fizzled because the Browns tried to remake a player into something he wasn't built to be. And now, with Graham, some Browns insiders are beginning to feel that same itch of concern. Let's be clear, Mason Graham is not Siaki IKA. He's more technically refined, more agile in short spaces, more ready to contribute immediately. But again, he's not built like a pass rush missile. If you were looking for someone to fly up the middle and disrupt quarterbacks, the draft board had other names: Walter Nolan, Derek Harmon, guys who lived in backfields and collected sacks like trophies. Graham's profile is different. He's about the dirty work, the grunt plays, the subtle disruptions that don't always show up in the stat sheet. And yet, the Browns used the number 5 overall pick on him. That's elite company. That's a pick meant for game changers. And while Graham might absolutely become one in his own right, the early signs suggest this will be a marriage of development, adaptation, and, perhaps, compromise. There's more. During rookie minicamp, Graham reportedly threw up after the first day of practice. Some panicked, some laughed, but to others, it was a sign that the kid is pushing himself, that he's feeling the full weight, literally and figuratively, of being a nearly 300-pound defensive tackle suddenly thrown into NFL conditioning under the Cleveland sun. It wasn't a red flag. It was a green light. That's effort. That's intensity. Now, fans and analysts alike are split. One side sees the upside. Graham is a foundational piece in the middle of the line, someone who commands double teams and frees up Myles Garrett and the edge guys to feast. The other side? They see the ghost of IKA. They fear the Browns are again trying to sculpt a pass rusher out of raw granite that was never meant to be polished in that way. This isn't just a matter of fit, it's a matter of vision. And that vision leads us to one of the most critical questions surrounding the Browns this offseason. Are they building a defensive identity that fits the pieces they've acquired? Or are they trying to force players into a system that doesn't match their core strengths? Because here's the uncomfortable truth. If Mason Graham doesn't turn into the kind of interior force you expect from a top 5 pick, fans will circle back to this, to the warning signs, to the quote from Schwartz, to the very idea that the Browns, yet again, may have overreached for a player they admire but don't fully understand. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Graham has everything you want in a foundational lineman: discipline, leverage, power, technique. What he doesn't have is the production. Yet, and maybe that's okay. Maybe, in a league obsessed with sacks and splash plays, it's time to appreciate the guys who do the invisible work. The plug-and-play warriors. The trench grinders. Maybe Graham is that guy. And maybe, just maybe, Cleveland saw something no one else did. But that's where we stand right now, in a delicate in-between. Graham is making adjustments. The Browns are adjusting expectations. And everyone, from the coaches to the fans, is waiting to see who blinks first. Now I want to hear from you. Do you think Mason Graham will be worth the 5th overall pick? Are the Browns making the right call, shaping him into something new? Or should they let him play to his strengths and reshape the defense around that? Because this is where it gets even more intriguing. There's a psychological layer to this entire Mason Graham saga that can't be ignored. Think about the emotional shift in a draft room, from passing on more dynamic pass rushers to locking in on a player like Graham. It wasn't just about fit. It was about belief. Belief that Graham's skill set could be expanded. That under Jim Schwartz, one of the league's most aggressive and demanding defensive minds, he could evolve. But what does that evolution really look like? In college, Graham made his money dominating the run game. Watch the tape. Consistent pad level, stellar hand placement, relentless motor. He rarely lost one-on-ones. That matters. It's a dying art in today's NFL where interior linemen are often judged purely by how many quarterbacks they can flatten. Graham's style is different, more about anchoring the defense, creating chaos through control. That's valuable. But the concern, rightfully so, is whether that value is enough to justify being selected at number 5 overall. Let's rewind a moment to the draft night drama. The Browns had a chance to make a splash. Jeremiah Gentry was still on the board. A dynamic edge rusher with elite traits. The kind of guy who screams future All-Pro. And yet, the Browns zagged when many expected them to zig. They took Graham. Now, that doesn't mean it was the wrong pick. But it does raise the stakes. Because passing on someone with superstar potential for a player who projects more as a blue-collar lineman, that's a franchise-defining decision. It either goes down as a masterstroke or as a major miscalculation. Let's talk scheme fit. Schwartz's defense is built on disruption, penetration, linemen shooting gaps, creating pressure not just from the edges, but up the middle too. It's aggressive, relentless, and it works when you've got the right pieces. But if those pieces don't naturally fit the puzzle, then what? That's the heart of the debate around Graham. Is he being asked to do too much, too soon? Are the Browns trying to force a square peg into a round hole? Or is this simply the natural growing pain of transitioning to the NFL? And Graham, like many before him, will find his rhythm and become exactly what Cleveland needs? It's easy to forget that even the best college players often struggle early. The game is faster. The players are stronger. The expectations are through the roof. For a guy like Graham, who didn't rely on speed or twitchiness but rather strength and technical mastery, that learning curve can be even steeper. Then there's the physical side of it. The moment at rookie minicamp, when he threw up on the first day, that was telling. Not in a bad way, not as a red flag, but as a snapshot of what it means to transition to the next level. This is a guy giving everything. He's not cruising. He's not coasting on draft status. He's grinding. He's working through it. And for fans who value heart and hustle, that moment was strangely encouraging. And let's not forget the human element. Graham isn't just adapting to a new scheme. He's adapting to a new life, new city, new locker room, new system. Everything about the NFL is different, faster, more intense. And under the spotlight of Cleveland's passionate fan base, every move he makes is magnified. There's also the mental strain of being the 5th overall pick. That's pressure, that's weight, and it's not always visible. But it's there. Every rep, every practice, every media scrum. You're not just another rookie. You're the guy. And that means mistakes get noticed more. Struggles get dissected more. And growth? Growth has to be fast, or people start to question the decision-making process that led to your selection. So where do we go from here? The Browns have time. Mason Graham has time. And Jim Schwartz has a plan. But time, in the NFL, is always running out. Development is expected. Results are demanded. And patience? Patience is a luxury few franchises and few players truly have. What we do know is this: Mason Graham is not backing down. He's putting in the work. He's adjusting. He's absorbing. And while the early reports might be lukewarm, they're not damning. This is a player who could become the anchor of Cleveland's defensive line for the next decade. But that'll only happen if the system and the player grow together, organically, not forcefully. Because the last thing this franchise needs is another cautionary tale, another IKA, another draft pick full of potential left unrealized. So what do you think, Browns fans? Is this the beginning of something special, or are we watching history threaten to repeat itself? Drop a comment, leave your take, and let's hash this out. And if you enjoyed this breakdown and want more raw, honest takes on everything Cleveland Browns, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss a single update. We'll be here every step of the way, breaking down every storyline, every snap, and every moment that matters. Go Browns!